Now you guys might be witnessing history here today because this might be the first and the last video I ever make fully dedicated to a Honda motorcycle. Alright everybody, what is going on? As always, thanks for stopping by to another video today. It's Eric here at the Moto John, and as you guys know, we're typically riding around Philly talking about Harleys, talking about motorcycles, talking about bikes, but still my Sportster is still in the shop, which is a little disappointing today. But luckily enough, there is some interesting motorcycle news that I came across today that was in relation to a new bike that really kind of caught me off guard and took me by surprise today. Now you guys typically know that I'm talking about cruisers, Harleys, that type of segment. You know, obviously I'm a big Harley fan. That's what I like the looks of them, all those things. But I really do try to stay up to date on what all the other brands are doing out there. You know, I like to keep tabs on the industry as a whole, you know, different styles, makes, models, brands, all that stuff. So when I see something new, I really like to check it out, you know, give it a glimpse, see what it's all about, read up on it, just so I can make sure that, you know, I'm staying up to date with stuff that's going on in the motorcycle industry. And I got to be honest with you guys, today I'm scrolling through Instagram, you know, I'm checking kind of the internet, things like that, and I come across this new bike that just took me by surprise, caught me off guard, stopped me right in my tracks while scrolling Instagram. And that doesn't happen very often. And even more surprisingly, it wasn't a Harley, it wasn't a cruiser, it's a new model that apparently Honda is coming out with. And now, like I said, you guys know me pretty much as a Harley guy. That's kind of my lane, that's what I like. But like I said, I like to keep tabs on all these other makes and models and brands and everything. And now me personally, I've just never quite really been a big Honda motorcycle person. For whatever reason, the bikes just don't typically resonate with me. And that's fine. It's not anything bad to those that do ride them or like them. Obviously, they're some of the best performing bikes out there, some of the most reliable bikes out there. People ride them all over the place. They've got tons of great different models and styles of bike. But like I said, they're just not necessarily for me. So that's why when I saw this bike today come across my feed, it literally stopped me in my tracks while I was scrolling. And what was that bike that I saw today that I was so impressed by? It was a new model that Honda introduced at a Japanese motorcycle show, the Honda Hawk 11. Now don't get me wrong, I don't claim to be any Honda aficionado by any means. Like I said, like you guys know, I'm a cruiser guy, Harleys, stuff like that. But I do know a little bit of the background of the Hawk. You know, it's been around for a while. There was all the different models of it, you know, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. There started off with the Hawk, there was the Nighthawk, the Super Hawk. And I gotta be honest, every once in a while, I'll see one of those when I'm riding around Philly or I'm out around town out there. And I always look at them and I'm always kind of intrigued by them. I'm always kind of curious by these Hawks out there. And I take a look at them and I'm like, you know, there's something just kind of like cool and retro and like funky about the Honda Hawk and some of those different spin-off versions that they had. And apparently now they're bringing it back with the Honda Hawk 11. So as it goes right now, as far as I could tell, there's very little information that's been released so far on the bike. I don't think we have release dates. We don't even know if it's going to be released in the United States yet. Very, very little information on it. But I do want to go over some of the things that I like about it and some of the things that I could find out so far about it. And some of it is mainly revolving around the looks that I'm telling you. Once we pop a picture of that thing up here in just a second, I want to know if anyone agrees with me out there or what anyone thinks of the history of the Honda Hawk, or if anybody's riding a Honda Hawk out there. Listen, once we take a look at this thing, I want to know what everyone's opinion is on this bike in the picture that we're about to show. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and pop a picture of this thing up here. This is the Honda Hawk 11. So what do we know so far from the looks of this thing? It's got a very retro throwback type of look. It's got that fixed fairing on the front with kind of that cafe racer look. The thing that really drew me initially to this bike was the lines of this thing with that fixed fairing up front and the lines, how they just kind of beautifully flow all the way into the back of the bike. I was just taken back. Like I paused for multiple seconds and was like, what is this thing? So obviously I had to start Googling it and searching it. And the more and more I look at this thing, the more I started to fall in love with the style of this bike. So like I said, the style of it, it's got very sleek lines. It also has a very aggressive stance from what we can see, a pretty high seat height from what we can tell. So what do we see when we're taking a look at this bike right off the bat here? Some of the things that we can tell. We've got the inverted front forks. We've got the dual disc brakes. We've got 17-inch wheels on there. And again, we've got another shot of the LCD screen right here. Reads out beautifully clear, crystal clear on the Speedo. And then next we've got some pictures of the riding position here. So they put out some pictures with a rider on the bike. You can see that this is a very kind of aggressive riding position. With the length of that tank, the rider appears to be reached out pretty far on there for a pretty long reach of the riding position. You've kind of got those like mid to rear set, not totally rear sets, but a little bit farther back than mid on the controls. And again, that riding position looks very lean forward. Now, like I said, that's not something I'm typically used to. That's not something I'm accustomed to. I'm a little bit more used to, obviously, the laid back cruiser style with the hands up a little bit more laid back riding style. So that is something that I would have to get used to, which kind of surprised me why I liked this bike so much, because it's totally different than what I'm used to, but something just kind of drew me to that. And I would love to get a chance to ride one of these things and see what I think about the riding position, the comfort, the feel, all of that. Something that I would definitely be interested in. So then next, let's take a look at what we know about the engine and the performance of this. So apparently, this bike is going to be coming with the 1084cc liquid-cooled engine that also comes in the Honda Rebel 1100 and the Africa Twin. So that lets us know that potentially this could be putting out around 80 horsepower and somewhere around 70 foot-pounds of torque. I think that's somewhere around the numbers for the Honda Rebel 1100. But once we find out more about this bike, I wouldn't be surprised if Honda goes ahead and tunes this a little bit differently, basically because of the styling of it and the way that they want it to perform. I wouldn't be surprised if they gave it a little bit more horsepower, tuned it up for a little bit more horsepower possibly, maybe dropped the torque down just a little bit and gave it a little bit more power through the mid-range. I think they would change it up a little bit from the Honda Rebel 1100, obviously, because that's just a different style bike. It's used for different things. When we start looking at the aggressive nature of this possible bike here, I think they would potentially work with the tuning a little bit on that same engine to give it a little bit more horsepower, a little bit more kick, and a little bit more performance-oriented than the Honda Rebel 1100. But again, using the same engine there. So another speculation with this bike so far is that it appears to have modes as well, potentially having rain mode, road mode, and sport mode. So that would be another great feature there to kind of mess around with some of those roads, riding in some of those different conditions and things of that nature. So again, what was it that drew me so specifically to this bike the moment I saw it? Was, like I said, the looks, but why else would I like it? It just looks like it would be a blast, an absolute blast to ride around the city of Philadelphia out there because of how compact and how performance-oriented it looks. The lean angle, I'm sure, is great. The seat height might be a little bit high for me. Obviously, I'm a little bit of a shorter rider, but the ride on this thing, zipping in and out of Philly traffic, the thing just looks like an absolute blast to ride. It would be an absolutely amazing bike to have here in Philly, to commute through the city on, zip around, duck and dodge and dive through traffic and stuff like that. And when you're riding through the city in the downtown area, that thing is going to turn some heads. I'm absolutely sure of it. The look of this thing is absolutely going to be a head turner down there in Center City. But also, it looks like it would be a blast out there on Kelly Drive. Some of those twists and turns you guys normally see me on. Get out on some of the back roads, the twists and turns. Maybe light it up on the highway a little bit. We'll see what that performance is like, but who knows? Very interesting to see this coming out from Honda recently. I know this one kind of took me by surprise. I hadn't seen any leaks or anything of it. Maybe some of you out there had seen some leaks previously. Drop it down in the comments if you guys were expecting this from Honda, if you guys knew this was coming, or if this was a little bit of a surprise. Again, it's a little early on with this bike from what I've read so far. They just released it at a motorcycle show in Japan. No plans even over here in the States yet. But we'll see how that goes. I'm sure once that thing gets out, the demand for that over here is just going to ramp up instantly, I've got to assume. So this Honda Hawk 11 is something I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on. Like I said, if it gets over here to the States, it's something that I'm definitely going to be interested in. It's something I'm definitely going to have my eye on. I'm going to need to test ride that thing. I'll be curious as they go along with this to see what specs start to come out with that, what the horsepower, what the torque looks like, what some of the technology built into that LCD screen looks like. But like I said, looking at this strictly from a looks perspective, this thing looks absolutely phenomenal. Like I said earlier, the lines and the design of this bike and the stance of this bike, that fixed fairing up front. Like I said, I'm scrolling through Instagram, looking at bikes, different stuff. This thing stopped me dead in my tracks. I'm not even kidding. And that normally doesn't happen with some of those Honda motorcycles. Like I said, you got the Rebel 1100, you got the Goldwing, You got all their different models and stuff. Not traditionally styles of bikes that I'm normally into, mostly just on the looks. Listen, I know they're great bikes. I know they perform. I know they're reliable. Just not the typical look of a bike that I'm into. But when they came out with this thing and they had this thing coming out on all over the internet today, I started reading about it. I'm looking up all these different pictures. I was like, wow, this thing looks awesome, man. This is something that I am like 100% interested in. I want more information. I want to get my hands on one of these things. We got to get one of these over in the States ASAP. So as always, like I said, let me know what you guys think about the potential of this new Honda Hawk 11 down in the comments. Are you familiar with the Honda Hawk, some of the previous old versions of it? What do you think of the look and the styling of this potential new one that's coming out? Like I said, I know we're not expecting it in the States anytime soon, but I think it's definitely going to be over here at some point. And I'm definitely interested in getting my hands on it once it does. So, like I said, drop a comment down there. Let me know what you think about this bike. Would you be interested in it? Are you interested in the looks, the style, the performance? Drop a comment down there and let me know what you think about this potential new Hawk from Honda. So like I said at the beginning, some potential history here. This is definitely probably the first full video that I've ever made solely dedicated to a Honda motorcycle. Will it be the first? Will it be the last? Who knows? If I ever get my hands on one of those things. I'll be honest though, I wouldn't mind test riding some of the other bikes they have. Wouldn't mind hopping on a Honda Rebel 1100, see what that's all about. But I would definitely make another video about this bike if I was ever able to get my hands on it. So, of course, that will wrap it up for now. As always, thanks for tuning in. If you have not already, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and like this video so you can stay up to date on everything we got going on and some of the new content we got coming out. And of course, we will catch you on the next one. Make sure you guys ride safe out there. As always, it's the Moto John. We'll see y'all on down the road. Peace.